welcome to Veterans of the Valley. I'm Tom Turbeville. The first thing that Colonel Freddie Wolters will tell you is that he never was the sort to do things by the book. Doing it his way was not always the Army's way, but his service not only to his country during World War II in the Pacific Theater, but even now with his involvement in the community speaks to his passion of patriotism. President Truman ordered the bomb dropped on Japan before his artillery unit had a chance to leave for what would have certainly been a bloody ground war in Japan. Nonetheless, he has stories of his wartime and his time at Texas A&M, where he was a freshman member of Homer Norton's football team in 1940. That was the year after the national championship. Please welcome to Veterans of the Valley, Colonel Freddie Wolters. Colonel Wolters, it's a great pleasure to have you here, and thank you for your service. First off, you grew up north of Denton on a farm during the Depression. Talk a little bit about that time growing up during the Depression. People my age, we hear about the Depression, but I don't think we really get a feel of what it was like growing up during that time. What was it like?
Well, it'd be pretty hard to make people realize how really tough it was, because the Depression was rough, not in Denton, but all over the United States. It was tough, tough, tough. And I farmed the whole year. And he ended up $56 left on a cotton crop. Mm-hmm. And I told my daddy, I said, I'm going to saddle old paint 7 miles down. I'm going to town and buy every bit of it in clothes. And then when I get back, I'm going to catch the school bus. And I caught the school bus 2 weeks after school started and enrolled in the 9th grade without going to the 8th grade.
You were a football player. The football coach kind of liked your skills on the football field.
Well, that's why that's what saved my life.
Right.
It's his, or kept me going, because of the football coach.
You went to Texas A&M in 1940, and like we said, that was the year after the 1939 national championship. So I guess Coach Homer Norton had some pretty high expectations of you all.
Not necessarily. Okay. Not necessarily, because he'd already had the national champions and had plenty of ball, and he had 144 freshmen to come out for freshman football. And he told me point blank, he said, you look like you're capable of doing it. If you can do what you need to do, well, then I'll take care of you. And out of the 144, there's only 24 letter sweaters, mm-hmm. and out of those 24, there's only 14 of us got our sweaters to time, letter sweaters and track and football.
Right. What positions did you play?
I played in.
Yeah.
Both ways.
Both ways, sure.
In those days, you played both ways.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, you were the class of 1944.
Yes, sir.
The classes of 41, 42, and 43, they all pretty much all packed up and went to war.
Yeah, that's right. They got their commission right out of A&M, so they were ready to roll, and they were the one who took the bloody part of Europe battle.
But the class of 44, talk about, it was sort of scattered around, right?
Class of 44 was an oddball deal, because it came at the time when things were sort of rocking back and forth, and didn't know what to do with it. They sent us to Camp Wolters to be inducted. And Mineral Wells is Camp Wolters, and it's a German name, W.O. And I told all the boys, I said, look, I'm an Army background, have respect for me, which wasn't true, but it made lots of fun.
I think you told them that the camp was named after your uncle, right? You tried to sell them on that,
yeah.
Right?
Well, then I came back to A&M. We came back to A&M and started school, but we didn't stay long.
Right. You were shipped off 11th Armored Division, 358th Artillery, and initially you thought you were going to go to Germany.
Yes, sir.
But it didn't work out that way. Tell me why.
Well, lots of people don't realize in those times why everybody with Japanese background in California were put in holding camps.
Right.
Sort of like a temporary prison.
Right.
And if you, in Germany, and you're going over there, and my name is a German name, W.O., they didn't know that I had a mother that's a straight-laced Baptist, and I was a half-breed, but they W.O. And the German family in Europe right now are the wealthy, wealthy, wealthy. They have the Wolters brewer all across Germany, and there's multiple rich. And so that just struck a note. So the colonel said, you can't go, I'm overage. And that made me unhappy, and I wanted to know why I couldn't go. And he said, well, you're the first person I ever heard that didn't want to stay home when you had to go to war. And I said, look, my classmates right out there now, and some of them are going to die and won't come back, and I'm entitled to go with them to do what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Well, I didn't go.
Instead, you were assigned to the Pacific. You went to Seattle, and from there to Hawaii, and that was kind of a rough boat ride.
Yes, sir.
For you and the African American military that were under you at the time. Talk about that.
Well, when you left, the ocean was thick. And we talk about a convoy of everything imaginable. It just wasn't one or two little ships. It had everything, submarines, just everything. And the waves was terrible. And because I was Texas, well, the colonel who I had never met signed me to be in charge of the troops you're talking about. And they only had one three-striper over them. Mm-hmm. And he put them down in the front of the ship in a bottom hole, 6 down. And it wasn't but a day till they cracked the seam and the water got in there. And of course they got that stop. But they all came out. Mm-hmm. They were scared.
Yeah.
And I was scared.
And you all were sick.
Sir?
You all were very sick, right? You were seasick.
We were seasick, and they were seasick, and just ready to jump overboard.
Right, right. I don't think people realize seasickness, you know, you can go out on a boat for an hour and get a little nauseated, but true seasickness in a case like that.
True sickness, you commit suicide if you get true sickness and can't get relief of it.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Right, right. So you went to one of your superiors and you had a little confrontation with him.
Yes, sir. I went in and asked for him, and he made a comment, and I told him we was all seasickness, that and the other, and he made the comment, well, seasickness is fear, and that didn't go over too well with me, and I just said, sir, I want you to understand that my men are sick, and I'm seasick, and we're ready to jump overboard, but back to what you said, I am not scared of anybody on this earth, and that includes you. Well, that sort of struck him pretty strong. And he said, well, I will see that you get some help. And he put 6 officers in charge, but he pointed his finger back and said, you still going to be the boss. So he didn't give me relief, but that would make it real simple.
Right. You spent 3 months or so in Hawaii.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then you took off again to sort of parts unknown, but towards the Philippines.
Well, Lisa, you said Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were in Hawaii for 3 months, and I had a survey team. We surveyed the pineapple patches and everything, and worked our way around doing different things. But the funny thing about that deal was that we were ready to ship out from Hawaii, and the Navy failed to put 50 armored trailers on the ship. Mm-hmm. And the colonel, it was a new colonel, came in, and he called myself and Lieutenant Booker. He was second lieutenant, and I was first lieutenant, and I was 6 foot some odd, and he's 5'4", but a great Christian.
Yes, sir.
Never cussed or said a bad word. Called us in, and he said, I was told if you wanted to get something done, call on you two. And boy, automatically I could think it's getting on a boat 666. I said, sir, we don't even know where that boat is. He said, you just get your men together and you go down there, you'll find it. You go down there and do what it takes to get those trailers. So when I got down there, the first person I met was a guard on the end, and I said, look, I want to know what person that I can talk to that's as tough and mean as a first sergeant in the Army. And he said, he's right down yonder, and he's mean and he's salty. I said, that's what we're looking for. So we went down there and he just threw a fit. He said, can you imagine what happens? All those trailers get running all over the place and people get killed. I said, oh, wait just a minute. That's your job, Navy, to get them on there. You're the one that left them off. I'm just down here to help you get them straightened out. I said, you put the trailers on there and you give me 2 men or 3 men to tell us how to tie them down. And then Sam and I had coveralls, and we got it right in there with them, and we tied down. Can you imagine what a chain on a Navy ship been in the rust? They had rust. So I'll stop there.
You got pretty dirty, pretty smelly, pretty filthy.
Pretty dirty.
Yeah. But then you got...
well, we worked.
Yeah,
people don't realize what we're talking about. That was the early of the morning, and the time we got down there, that's afternoon, all the next day until 10 o'clock the next night. That's how we never stopped. Davey fed us, we went to the bathroom and back, but we just kept working. And Sam and I was right in there with them, just working like crazy. Because you can't tell somebody how to do something if you don't know it yourself. And we had Army coveralls on, and all that was clean about either one of us is eyeballs.
Right.
The rest of us just rusty.
The colonel was pretty proud of your work, though, wasn't he?
Well, when they came on, I met one major, and he bought us out for being not representing officers. You're supposed to dress like an officer, not and clean and polite and this other. And I just sort of ignored him and went on with a few people, and here come the colonel, and he almost hugged us. He shook our hands. It was the proudest person you've ever seen. And I told him, I said, sir, I want to tell you something. I'm pretty unhappy. He said, what the weather, Colonel Wolters, Lieutenant Wolters, what you unhappy about? And I told him. And he said, that's all right. Y'all go to your quarters and sleep and get over with it and rest it up, cleaned up. And when you get ready, come to my office. I don't care what time of day or night it is, you come to my office. And we did, like he said.
Right.
And he met with the colonel. And that was the end of him. He left.
He kind of dressed down the colonel
Shipped
pretty
out.
much. Indeed. You thought that you were headed to Japan for a ground war.
To where?
To Japan for a ground war. That's what your thought was. And I believe you had even been told that if there was a ground war in Japan, that there could be as many as 500,000 deaths.
That's right.
Even more on the Japanese side.
That's right.
What were your thoughts then about the prospect of this?
Well, I don't really know. You know, if you're in the service, especially if you're as honored as I am, well, you worry about it. You just take it as it comes, and if it happens, it happens. And we wasn't excited about being on a flat bottom boat with a bulldozer sitting in the front of it, loaded out to go to Japan. And that's whenever he dropped the first bomb, and Japanese generals didn't want to stop. But Harry Truman, think his soul, he dropped the second one.
Right.
And that's when everything stopped. And then we said, wait, we can wait to see what happened.
So you were in the Leyte Gulf at this time, at Leyte, right?
Yes, sir.
On the flat bottom boat.
That's right.
Ready to sail,
That's
ready
right.
to go. When you heard about the first bomb on Hiroshima and the second bomb on Nagasaki.
Yes, sir.
And that changed everything around. That changed everything for you and your career and everything. The war was over at that time. I want to go to some photographs that you've supplied for us, and I want you to look at them and talk about them and tell us sort of what we're looking at. These are pictures from your career.
I look here?
Yes, sir. You can look right there at the monitor. That is Freddie Wolters at Denton High School. Is that right?
That's right.
And that is from the yearbook, his most popular boy. How come you were
that's high school,
right?
Most popular boy.
How come you were the most popular?
Well, because I was. In other words, I was always doing what you're doing, laughing and talking and friendly to everybody.
I knew that would be the answer. Well, and a good looking. You probably could. Now here you are at Texas A&M. What year was that taken? Was that your freshman year?
That was a senior in high school, 1939.
Okay, but you're at A&M. You're at Texas A&M in this
A&M,
picture.
I was a freshman, you know.
Right. The previous picture was at Denton High School.
Yeah, that's
This
right.
is at Texas A&M.
Yeah. And at Texas A&M, in those days we didn't have boots. They cut them out, and you see that picture there. I got a saber, but there's no boots.
Right.
Because the war stopped making boots.
I see. So that's your senior picture. Is that your senior picture there?
That's the senior picture right there.
Right. Okay.
Still got that hat sort of crooked, the distant being sort of cocky.
Indeed. All right, let's move on to the next one. Tell me about this picture.
Well, you see we're laughing real good.
You're on the right.
And I'm on the right, and the man holding in his hand a bottle of beer, and he was at Army camp, and he didn't have any slightest idea that there was any beer anywhere around, and I always managed to have an old Army can and do everything normal, and I handed him, I said, how would you like to have this? And he said, oh boy, that would be terrible. And that's when you see him there smiling and happy about it. But that's about all I can tell you.
It sounded like somebody just said something funny.
Yeah.
This is later on, and we're going to talk about this later, your involvement with the Lions Club, because you have great involvement with the Lions Club. But I wanted to show people this picture to show your affection with the Lions Club, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Just wanted to show that, and we'll move on. And here's you and your wife, Mickey, and you all have been married 64 years. That's what she told me.
That's what she told her. That's what she told you. Remember, I asked her. She's a good-looking woman.
She certainly is.
And a wonderful wife.
Indeed.
Couldn't ask for anything better.
Indeed. There's one more picture that we talked about. I want to introduce this first and then let you talk about it. 1945, April the 21st, you're an Aggie. You were in a photograph that's really a very famous photograph that a lot of people have seen, taken at Corregidor.
Yes, sir.
At Aggie Muster.
Yes, sir.
We're going to show this picture on the screen, and while we're showing the picture, I'd like for you to talk about sort of how this all came to be. Go ahead.
Well, actually, the thing on that deal right there, we all had a day's vacation, you might say. Whether you was Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever. And we all were allowed to go to Corregidor for one day, and we all celebrated, as you can see there in the picture. But then the celebration was over that day, and we went back to our units, and it was all forgotten. But in that deal right there, it was shown all over the campus. In other words, it was a little bitty, April 21st was deal.
Right.
That was a muster ahead of time.
I see. And all there's a close-up of the picture that we've blown up, and that's you right there without the hat. And
I looked at it a while ago that you see where the arrow comes down?
Right.
Well, I'm one with the arrow on that head. I'm not that other little one. See,
You're the one without the hat, right?
There you are.
Right.
And I took off my hat so I'd be different than everybody else.
So you could be able to tell people, I'm the one without the hat, right?
Without the cap.
Right. Now, the people who gathered for this picture, the military personnel, these were all branches. This was Army, Navy, Air Force, Army Air Corps.
Of course, they're all pretty well dressed alike in those days. You didn't have too much difference.
Right. And what was the scene like? I mean, all of you Aggies getting together for that one day. This is just a snapshot.
Well, I would have to admit to you, it was a pretty happy day for all of us.
Right.
Because we knew lots of people in there that we hadn't seen in I don't know how long. And down on the front row is one of the boys who was a classmate of mine that went overseas with me all during the war, and he's on the front bottom row. And you just really a camaraderie type deal. Right.
So you talked about days at Aggieland. You talked about Texas A&M a lot that day. You had to do a lot of catching up in one day.
We didn't have any problem talking.
Right. I'll bet you didn't. About how many were in that picture? It looks like
I can't answer that.
A couple of hundred, maybe. I don't know. I'm not good at estimating something like that.
Maybe more. I don't really know.
Probably something like that. But I know a lot of people have seen this picture in books, and I think it's hanging on walls at Texas A&M, and you've got that on the wall at your home. And I know that only not means a lot to you, but muster even today.
Yeah.
means a lot to you. As
Yeah.
the folks are seeing this show, muster has just happened a couple of weeks ago. So muster still means a lot to you, I would imagine.
Well, it'd be pretty hard to say that it didn't.
Right.
When this thing was taken here, for the muster, they always had the write-up you had in there, the Aggie World War II heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Yunkin interviewed us.
Right.
Had 5 of us, and he
Right.
told them right off. He said, "Now, Freddie Wolters is going to be on the select one. He's going to go because he's going to be there whenever we have our April the 21st muster, because this is all around that, and that's how that all came about. So, sort of got in the limelight pretty quick."
I know it means a lot to you. After the war, you returned to Texas A&M. You actually stayed in the service in the reserve for some 30 years.
That's right.
Afterwards, but you were able to come back to Texas A&M and work for Jocko Roberts
Yes,
at the A&M plantation, the farm, which was out on Highway 60.
Yeah.
Talk about that work.
Well, it'd be pretty hard for you to understand my background if I went to Denton High School without the 8th grade credit. And I had to come to A&M, and I had the same thing. But my goal was, when the prof gave me the credits, he said, "Freddie wants to go to A&M and be an ag teacher."
Mm-hmm.
And he was exactly right. That's all I knew. And the first time I ever came to A&M, we came here in high school, and I slept on the old stadium, all of us. And I fell in love with A&M. But the idea about the what was you asking me?
about working at the A&M farm.
Okay.
Right.
I never dreamed that I'd ever be coming back here.
Right.
Because I went to Fannin County right after the war and taught veterans in vocation ag.
Right.
And I ended up being at Tyler. Mickey and I recall that. We got promoted around, and I was over 9 counties. So I get a call from Jocko Roberts. Would I come and interview with him for a job at Canaan? And I said, "Well, yeah, I'll come." And so when I came, he talked about what was you doing and what I was going to do. He was assigned to do all this development across the railroad track. They was dusted across the railroad track. And that's what Gil Gilker signed him to coordinate that. And he said, "I can't do it because I got to have," he said, "Well, get your helper." Well, what did he look for? He looked for somebody that would work, because he wasn't looking for somebody smart, because he wouldn't have selected me. So he asked me to come here.
Right. We have a few minutes left, and we talked about your involvement with the Lions Club, and I know that this means a lot to you. Yeah. Talk about your involvement, and you have been honored many times by the Lions Club. I know that.
Well, yes, sir. I involved in the Lions Club from grassroots up, and when I was in high school, in order to play football, Mr. Carrington had a drugstore. He and his wife, Babe, they signed a car to me that would be there night and day to haul me back home. I never had to ask for it. Mm-hmm. Well, we was over at Austin at our deal, and I was state membership chairman and my senior when he got, and he was there, and he got up and talked. And then when he got through talking, then I said, "I want to go back and talk." And I was membership chairman. We had our convention, and I had a tremendous year. And so I said, "Now this is the man that got me through A&M." Yeah. I said, "Can you imagine anybody furnishing a car for you for all the time you're there and never know you? He just furnished it." And I said, and tears just rolled out of his eyes. And in fact, this past week I got a letter from his son.
That's a wonderful story. We have just a couple of minutes left. I know that in your later life you spent some 30 years in the banking business here in town as a lender. But I want to take the last couple of minutes to let you talk about your family. You and your wife, Mickey, have been married for 64 years, and I know you have 4 kids and 12 grandkids and 11 great-grandkids. We don't have time to name them all. I don't know whether you could, but I know that you're very proud of your family.
Well, I couldn't tell you for certain. I couldn't be any prouder, and none of them live close by.
Right.
They're all away, and they all have made a great life for themselves. But I thank goodness that they're not close by, because when you get our age, they drop in on you, that sort of. So we're glad they're scattered around.
So you can sort of pick and choose the times that you can see them all. But
Mickey got a call from her daughter and that lives in Missouri, and we got a little grandson. He's our favorite, and he wanted to talk. Of course, he wanted to talk to Pawpaw too, but Pawpaw couldn't hear on that, so I couldn't talk to him. But that's a real quick story with him. But anyway,
thank you for being our guest. We're out of time, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate.
Freddie Wolters says that when he leaves this life, the first person he'll look up is his mother. Second one, Harry Truman. There will certainly be some great stories to swap. Freddie and Mickey Wolters have been married for 64 years, and with their 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 11 great-grandchildren. We salute him for his service then and his service now. I'm Tom Turbeville. Join us next time on Veterans of the Valley.